Women who gave the creep a chance. How did it go? Story 1, I ignored my gut feeling about him, overlooked his strange tendencies, and tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. We were together for almost 2 years. The entire relationship, he added, girls he didn't even know on Snapchat and would say rather inappropriate things to them. Being that you know nothing about strangers on that app, I'm now aware that one of the girls was a minor. He was 26. On my 22nd birthday, he had invited my best friend to sleep in our bed with us, and the first time he met my sister, he gave her the same invitation. He gave both of those invitations right in front of my face. When we were out together and he saw someone attractive, he wouldn't just glance, he stared. He regularly talked crap about my family and is just generally an awful person. I was his first real girlfriend, and is extremely self-centered and mentally abusive. That ended almost a year ago, and he still goes to our regular hangouts and asks about me, when I come in, where I'm living, who I'm seeing, etc. My takeaway from that whole situation is always trust your gut feeling about people. Story 2. I agreed to go on a date with a guy. He seemed nice enough, and he appeared to have his life together. After an hour at the pub, I was getting some red flags, and I said I needed to make a move, and he walked me to my car. He then got in my car with me and begged me to go back to his. I politely declined at first, but he wasn't getting out, so I started to get more scared. After about 20 minutes of insisting I come back to him, I was terrified. So I secretly texted my mate to call me with an emergency. 5 seconds later, she called and said she got stuck in a puddle and needed my help. I love this girl. So I told him I really needed to go, and after getting quite angry, he finally got out and slammed my car door. Unfortunately, I went on another date a year later with a different guy, and again he got in my car and tried to kiss me. I just leant on my horn, wound my windows down, and screamed like a crazy person. Luckily, he got the message and left swiftly. Guys, please don't just get in the girl's car. It's creepy and scary as hell. Story 3. There was a guy who I wasn't sure about. There had been signs. After a couple normal dates, he wanted to take my Jeep to a local off-road location that had a main rutty road with many offshoots, with hill climbs and mud pits. He bugged and bugged me to drive it. I told him he could only take it down the main off-road, but while we were bouncing, straddling ruts, chugging along just fine, he suddenly gunned it up an almost vertical climb off the main road and rolled us into a ditch on our side. The tires weren't on the ground, so there was no way to get it out. Then, he acted like it was no big deal. I had to walk to my uncle's house, which happened to be on a road near the off-road location. He wasn't home, but his girlfriend was, so I called a couple people and couldn't get a hold of anyone. As a last resort, I called one of my best friends from childhood, a guy friend, which we did briefly date for a while before deciding to just remain friends. The only person I could get a hold of with a vehicle that could potentially pull my Jeep out. The creepy guy had no ideas besides leaving it there on its side. He had a total fit and made a big scene. My friend from childhood helped me pull the dents out and fix it, while the creepy guy walked off into the sunset. Story 4. Back in high school, several of my female friends and I, also female, had an off period before lunch, so we were all sitting around a table chatting. One of the female security guards came up to us and told me that there was a new exchange student from Amsterdam that thought I was cute, but he was too nervous to come over and introduce himself. I have zero interest in men, but I figured there wasn't any harm in letting the guy come sit with us and helping him feel more comfortable at our school. So he comes over, sits down with us, and chats a bit. He seemed rather shy, and he had about a dozen piercings going up each arm that he kept fiddling with and a bunch of facial piercings. Then class lets out and people, including a bunch of my male friends, start showing up for lunch. First male friend sits down and introduces himself. New guy doesn't not respond at all, doesn't even look at friends. Weird. Maybe just shy? Second male friend comes and sits down. Same thing. Slightly unsettling now. We kept trying to include him over lunch, but he would only respond to the women, wouldn't even acknowledge the other guys at the table. I never talked to him again after that lunch period, and 2 weeks later, he got expelled for slamming a girl against a locker and choking her to the point she nearly passed out. Story 5. Met him when I worked as a cashier in a small downtown shop. Wasn't my type and seemed a little off, but I was young and had zero real dating experience. Agreed to grab coffee as a friend and made it clear I didn't have a romantic interest. He became convinced he was Gatsby, and I was his Daisy. The Great Gatsby film had just come out that year. Started stalking me and endlessly sending letters and gifts to me at work, describing how we were fated to be together. When I confronted him to stop, he started having his friends follow me at work or drop by to check in on me, prowled outside on nights I had to close shop alone. I ended up quitting that job and things fizzled. 7 months later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was the same dude. He just got released from a short prison sentence and was letting me know he thought of me every day and was going to find me so we could finally be together. I made up a story that I was traveling abroad for college and would be gone indefinitely. Changed my number and luckily haven't heard from him again. Story 6. He was older than me, wouldn't respect boundaries, pressured me to do things, texted hundreds of times a day, then the next day completely iced me out. Phoned 14 times one afternoon. I tried the same thing back to him. He screamed at me to never call him again. Later threatened self-harm if I didn't talk to him. Harassed me at work. Turns out he was married the whole time, but they were separated? Wanted me to go in the woods with him. I walked and ran away as fast as I could. Story 7. Did one video chat with him, during which he asked if he could call me again later in the day. When I told him, no, I'll be busy, I started getting random text messages throughout my day that said, are you okay? Just let me know you're okay. The first I responded to, I said, hey, yeah, I'm fine. I just hung out with you 30 minutes ago, bud. He took that as a sign that I wanted to talk more. So he attempted another video call. When I didn't respond, he started again with the texts. Didn't even bother responding to the rest. Up to 20 unread messages later, before I was able to block him while leaving him unread. Story 8, reading. I realized I actually have something to contribute. I gave him a chance in high school. I was 15 and he was 18. Ended with him sticking his tongue down my throat several times, quite aggressively, joking about stabbing me as he lunged a knife at me, and laughed about it while carving pumpkins, and threatened to shoot up the school with a list of names, my friend and I being top of the list. He got suspended, and no one ever saw him. Update. My friends and I found out he's now in the military. Story 9. Went on a first date for just drinks with a guy, and red flags were immediate. Didn't look anything like his profile, and got handsy almost as soon as we sat down. I wasn't into him at all, but we had a shared interest in horror novels, so I decided to extend the date into dinner. During dinner, he drank several old fashions while I nursed a single beer. He then told me he thought we were soulmates, and he thought we were going to fall in love. He also told me his ex-girlfriend was going to get an abortion the next day. At the end of the date, his portion of the bill was significantly more than my portion because of all his drinks, but he asked me to pay half, which I did. On top of that, he gave me crap for driving to the date, even though it was only a mile from my house. I didn't want to walk in hot weather in my nice date dress, and I twisted my ankle earlier that week. But even after giving me crap for driving, he asked me to give him a lift home, which I did. Once we were in front of his place, he refused to get out of my car unless I went inside with him for a nightcap. I said absolutely not. He begged me to just enjoy a drink on his front porch. I said no. I told him to get out of my car. He finally did. The next day, he texted me telling me that was the best date he'd ever had, and he couldn't wait to see me again. I told him no thank you, and walked away with one lesson learned. I need to just say no from the beginning. Story 10. A few years ago, I went to a brewery to meet a guy on a date for the first time. The waiter began a conversation and asked me if I was expecting anyone else. I told him I was on a blind date and hadn't met the guy before. The waiter asked me if I wanted to set up a code word. Since they didn't serve milk stouts, if I ordered one from him, he would know something is up and would call me back to have me sign the receipt instead. The waiter kept checking on me frequently. Eventually, I did order a milk stout. When it came time for the bill, I asked for it to be split. My date put his drinks on my bill. When the waiter came back, he told me he had the drinks removed. It was in the house. When my date asked me what that was all about, I told him the waiter had told me there was something wrong with my card, so I needed to go to a bar with him. I waited a while and then left for my car. The date was still there. He made a comment about how he was waiting for a goodbye hug. I told him no thank you and that my car was in the opposite direction. Moments later, he sent me horrendous text messages. And thank you, John. You may have saved my life that day. Story 11. I bought him a coffee one, and we chatted about our music tastes. 3 days later, I was sitting in my dorm, and I got a text from him that was just a selfie. I sent one back, and the conversation got really boring, so I sent him a snap of a black screen. He responded, "Are you in a dark place?" And I said, "Yeah." His response was, "Well, you'll have to leave soon because you have class in insert building with insert professor at 6 o'clock. I literally never told him anything about my classes, so he just stalked me until he learned my entire schedule. It turns out he was a serial creep, preying on freshman girls. Story 12. After a few dates, he started to get way too serious. I told him calmly and honestly that I wasn't ready for a serious relationship, and he deserved to be with someone who was. He completely flipped, and after a bit of name-calling, I stood up and started to leave the bar. He then said, "You should watch yourself in the future, especially when getting into your car." I was extremely paranoid for months after. Would check my back seat and under my vehicle. Never saw him again, so just an empty threat, but not a fun time. That was like 15 years ago. Yeah, he's still single. Story 13. On our first date, I ordered a beer. It came to the table super frothy. I was distracted for a moment, but when I looked at it again, there were very clear drip marks in the foam, like something had been dropped in it. I made up some excuse about not feeling well and got out of there. Oops, can't leave. My dumbass drove and my car was valeted. I, very uncomfortably, got the car from the valet and we both got in. He asked me to stop at a gas station so he could buy smokes on the way. Thank God, because I knew going to his house was not a good idea. As soon as he got out at the station, I peeled out and left him there. I never should have let him in my car, but I panicked. I didn't know what he was capable of. This was 15 plus years ago. I'm now happily married to the best thing that ever happened. Story 14. We had a terrible date. I wanted to cancel beforehand, but felt guilty doing it. He texted a lot after. I told him straight that I did not feel the same way about him and waited for it. He took it well. He thanked me for being straight with him and for giving him a chance. I hope he found someone. Estimated time of arrival. Didn't add many details because I truly was expecting this to get buried because of how mundane it is. The creepy behavior was, mostly, before the date. I was working a temporary bartending position, while the usual bartender, a friend, was on unpaid maternity leave. It was a small hole-in-the-wall type neighborhood bar. In addition to off-putting / creepy jokes and comments, there was also an incident where he offered to wait to walk me to my car, and I declined. I still found him hiding in the shadows waiting for me. As I walked out, he almost learned what a stun gun feels like that evening. He claimed he was just worried about me because he saw some sketchy people outside when he left. Do I know that's what it was for sure? No. I definitely questioned his motives, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I asked my friend what his deal was, and she said he fell into the creepy but harmless category. After talking with him over the few weeks I was at that job, I took him as someone who had very poor social skills, but not a bad person. I think the creepy vibe came from the lack of social skills. He needed a lesson in not trying to act cool or tough with his comments or jokes, because it contributed to the creep, for sure. I accepted the date on my last shift at that bar, figuring that if it went really badly, he didn't know where I usually work. And I made sure to drive myself there and had people on standby, should I need help. Thanks for the awards. And to the lovely people in my DMs, you're all just gems. Story 15. I had a friend in high school. He was the kid teachers were extra nice to, just in case, if you know what I mean. We were messaging, and he basically said he was drunk and was going to kill himself if I didn't agree to date him. I was 17 and scared, so I said yes. He was all right, and I had pretty low self-esteem. We dated for 2 years, and they were miserable. He convinced me that I was wrong for saying I was a virgin because I'd been abused as a 3-year-old, and all sorts of other crap. He had no emotional intelligence at all. He would openly flirt with my friend around me and say that if we broke up, he didn't want to have to be single again. So he wanted to set up other options, and besides, she was skinny and I wasn't. Eventually, I went to college and made real friends, and we just kind of ghosted each other. It was weird. Story 16. I got bad vibes from a guy. On our second date, I had to cancel because my dog was sick and had to go to the vet. I told him I was sorry. He asked to meet me at the vet. I told him no, but we could reschedule because I was really stressed out. He showed up anyway, which was really weird. But I didn't think much of it, even though I hadn't told him which vet it was. But I was so focused on my dog, I didn't really register it beyond a fleeting thought. I didn't want him there. But he was, and he tried to be supportive, but I was panicking and I barely knew him. And it was weird. I kind of ghosted him after because of the vibes. I don't like ghosts, but he sketched me out. And guys like that don't always take overt rejection well. A short while later, he asked to go on another date. I told him no thanks and that I wasn't interested. He said he was coming over to my house. He had picked me up for our first date. I know. I told him I had moved, which was true. He said he was coming anyway. I was like, WTF? No, how? I told him he was scaring me and not to bother. A few months later, I got a picture of my car and my house and my window. He had found my new house. Apparently, Snapchat had a feature where it just show people your exact location, and he was just watching my movements over town. What an awful feature from an equally awful app. I told him that was weird and scary, and I slept with a knife for weeks. Story 17. We worked together. I wasn't super into him, but decided to give him a chance, because it's not like I was dating anyone else. In fact, I had a bit of a crush on another coworker that was in a somewhat supervisory role over me, so I thought better to move on from that. We had one date. We met, chatted, and walked, hugged at the end, didn't even kiss. We had agreed to keep it between us because I didn't want work drama. His response to that was to tell most of our coworkers and to write me a letter he left on my card telling me how he could see the whole picture. With me, marriage, kids, growing old together. But hey, I can say one good thing. One of the people he told was that guy I mentioned earlier in this post that I had a crush on. Turns out it wasn't one-sided, and he made sure to step up and let me know it. I guess I shouldn't call him my crush anymore, since he's my husband now. Ghosted the creep, and good thing I did. He tried this with every other woman in the store, too. Story 18. Once for me, there was a dude who followed me around on campus for a while. He'd realized I was a regular poster on something awful and wanted to connect with me on that front. I thought he was pretty weird and off putting. He actually very sincerely freaked me out a little at the time. Turns out he was the best friend of my now husband, just the nicest, kindest, sweetest dude on earth. I know him really well now. He's even dating another friend of mine, and they're unbelievably adorable. I feel so bad now about how bad he scared me back then. I had no way of knowing who he was. Story 19 was going through a messy divorce, mostly because my ex husband had drained my bank account second time and still had all the bills of our apartment and insurance. He kept the key for months, and every day for weeks I would find new things missing, although petty things. Led me to go shopping for a very non essential item at Spencer's after work one day and happened to meet my future husband. I would say he struck me as creepy at first, just because he eavesdropped on a conversation I had while checking out. Almost bought some candy, but it was a ridiculous price when I knew I could get the same thing at Target across the street for $1. Either way, unbeknownst to me, he bought the candy and followed my car to the next store. Had a weird feeling of being followed, and when I turned around, he was sprinting behind me with the candy I didn't want to pay for at the other store. All in all, a rare circumstance of this actually being a very kind and caring individual. We ended up talking for like 2 hours in the parking lot, where it was mostly me venting about my life. Pretty much hit it off right away. Talked about prospects of kids and marriage, and 5 years later, we're married and have a kid together. Just want to stress again, this is rare. If someone strikes you as creepy, it's usually a sign to take seriously. I just happened to get extremely lucky, and he was just an innocent, kind person that wanted his lifetime person and a family of his own as much as I did. Story 20. The most memorable were sending I love you the day we became a thing, pressured me into having my first kiss with him, told me his pastor said I would be the one he married. After the breakup, I thought we could still be friends. Wrong. He liked making me feel like crap for moving on from him. Took me to his junior prom and tried to kiss me after when I just wanted to get in the car to go home. I got jealous of a guy friend that came to see me graduate from high school because he was the main person I wanted to talk to. Hadn't seen the kid in literal years. Every gift, favor, or what have you always felt like there was an intention to try to win me back. Nothing felt genuine. Even kept trying once I went to college. The last time being when he came to see and gave me a book for my birthday, and got pouty when I told him I was seeing someone. There's a lot more, but suffice to say, I kept giving him chances because I thought he would get over me and we could be actual friends. Instead, I ended up traumatized and emotionally scarred. And despite the fact that I now live across the country, I still worry that he'll somehow pop up out of nowhere or try to get back into my life somehow.